Hi there, my name is Marley and welcome to my channel. It has been a while since I uploaded a what I watched recently video. I decided that I was only going to do these videos every other month now, or just less often than I was, because I just found I wasn't as motivated to make TV and movie related videos as I was to make book videos, and I just found the movies and TV shows that I was watching to get kind of repetitive. So I actually have a lot of different things to talk about for what I watched over the months of August and September. As always, I'm not going to mention the rewatches because whatever, that's old news. And the way I'm going to do it this time, in the past I've just talked about everything I watched in no order. Sometimes I have tier ranked the TV shows and movies that I've watched. This time I'm just gonna put it in two segments. I'm gonna say the ones that I recommend and the things I do not recommend and don't think that you should be watching. So let's start off on a positive note and talk about all the movies and TV shows I've watched recently that I would recommend to you. So first up is WandaVision on Disney Plus. I think this was the first Marvel TV show that they did. If you don't know, before this video, I had watched Loki and I had not enjoyed that show. So I was very pleasantly surprised to watch WandaVision and actually enjoy it. This follows Wanda Maximoff and her love interest Vision. And at the beginning of the show, it is some sort of like old sitcom parody. I forget what year it starts in, maybe the 50s. And each episode is like them in a different decade of sitcoms. So it has that like fun parody element to it. But there's also a bit of a mystery of like, why are they in this TV show? Like, why are they not in, normal time, normal Marvel timelines? Throughout the show, you slowly figure out what's going on. It's not the perfect show. I'm not like the biggest Marvel fan to start with, but out of all the Marvel shows that I have watched, it was definitely the best and it was definitely worth watching. Especially if you are a fan of like older sitcoms, then it was pretty good. The next show I watched was, I think it's all of the third season or fourth season, whatever the last season was, of Atypical. This is like a family dramedy show on Netflix, and it is so good that I highly recommend it to everyone. In fact, my sister is actually currently watching it, and I think she binged like a whole season or like more than a whole season in a day, which is just sort of a testament to how good it is. But this follows our main character Sam, who at the beginning of the show I believe is still in high school, and then you see him going into college, but he is on the autism spectrum. So we're just seeing his journey and how he deals with, I guess, his autism along with working and being a student and his love life. And then we're also seeing his two parents and like their own issues that they have going on, as well as his younger sister Casey, who is also a teen and has like her own stuff going on with her love interests and her being a track star and stuff like that. So it's just like a classic family show that's very feel good and also pretty funny as well. Another show that I just sort of binged was Cooking with Paris on Netflix. I believe Paris originally was going to do like a YouTube cooking show, and then Netflix actually picked it up as an actual show. So each episode you are seeing Paris make some sort of themed meal, whether it is, I believe they do Mexican and the classic like Italian and different themes like that. She has a celebrity cook with her each episode and then eat dinner with her. So it's very entertaining just seeing Paris Hilton's personality, of course, but it's actually kind of interesting because she actually is a big fan of cooking. So while it can be very funny with her whole character of being like aloof and not knowing how to cook, it's interesting seeing that she actually is very passionate about food and cooking, and seeing how good or bad all of her guest hosts are. Some of the celebrity guests she has are Kim Kardashian and Demi Lovato. I haven't really heard that many people talk about it, so in case like you didn't hear about it, you missed it, I would definitely recommend it if you just want like a fun, nothing show that you can just sort of put on and get through really quickly. Another show that I always rave about on here is Stargirl, and this is now on the CW for its second season. This is one of the DC superhero shows, and as I've said before, and as I will say again, it is literally the best superhero show that I've ever seen. And I'm still loving it in season 2. I still think the quality is so great. It follows Courtney, who is this young teenage girl, and then the Starman staff ends up choosing her, and she instantly becomes a superhero. And then she sort of recruits like some of her friends to be other superheroes in the Justice Society of America, or the JSA, and then they have to defeat members of the ISA, which is the Injustice Society of America. And it's just this really like great, like very grounded show. I don't know, I just think it just has like a really good balance of everything. So yeah, highly recommend that one. Another show I was really impressed by was season 2 of Outer Banks, again on Netflix. Season 1 of this came out last year, and I remember it kind of took me a while to get into the show. By the end, I was enjoying it, but season 2 just starts off with a bang and does not stop. It was so good the entire season. If you guys don't know, it follows this group of teenagers that live in Outer Banks, I think is the name of where they live. I think that's why it's called that. And they're like the Pogues, so more of like the poor people, working class, I guess, I don't know, in their little society. And then there's, I forget what the rich ones are called. Then there's like the rich kids. Anyways, it has to do with like finding treasure. Basically like the poor trying to become rich and the rich like tearing them down. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, it kind of like is a little bit metaphorical with like the world. But yeah, these kids are basically trying to find this treasure. This old rich man is trying to take it from them. It's like a teenage drama show. Like there are teen relationships and stuff like that, but then there's also like so much action. If you also like action and like gun fighting and stuff like that, fist fighting, recommend. I feel like it's good to maybe watch with your boyfriend because there's something for everyone with it. Another show that I've gotten back into is Titans season 2. Not too far into it yet, but I'm definitely enjoying it. This would be another one of my favorite superhero shows just because I think it has like such a great cast of characters, so there's always gonna be someone that you like. I never really watched Teen Titans or anything like that. Like I don't really know much about the lore behind these characters, but I've been enjoying it. Like there's Robin, Raven, Starfire, I think they're called, Beast Boy. And from there it's basically like a typical superhero show where there's villains and like characters trying to figure out their powers and like the dynamics in the team, but it's a pretty good one. Then I also just watched the premiere of Survivor. I know it is getting a lot of hate online and it really makes me sad, but I did overall still enjoy the premiere. I'm really excited to watch it. I always enjoy it. I feel like Survivor keeps it very fresh. A couple of the twists happening this season, I'm like not totally sure about, like the little dice that they can do at Tribal to try and win safety. But I get why they're doing it because they want to keep it fresh after 40 seasons. They need to like add new things into the game. I think we have a lot of good potential in a lot of our tribe mates and a lot of interesting characters. Can't really say too much because it's just been the premiere, but yeah, liking that. Then for the movies I would recommend, those were just the TV shows. I would recommend Escape Room Tournament of Champions. So this is the sequel to Escape Room. Essentially, if you are a fan of escape rooms, you should watch this. It kind of is like Saw as well, where there's like a bunch of strangers put into this room and they're trying to escape. And it's like those escape rooms that you can play, but people die instead of losing. And then there is just one champion at the end that I think wins money or something, I don't remember. But it's a thriller movie and both of them are really, really good. Another movie I watched was The Vault. This one didn't stick with me as much, but I still felt like it was a pretty decent movie on Netflix. It was kind of like a heist movie. This like team of criminals hires this like super smart college guy to help them with this epic heist. Again, like not a lot stuck with me. It wasn't a perfect movie, but I do remember overly enjoying it along with the people that I watched it with. Another movie that was really, really good was The Descent. This is an older horror movie that my boyfriend actually showed me. He's like a big fan of it, has seen it multiple times, and I see why. It's really, really good. It follows these 5 or 6 women and they're all friends and they go on this hike together and they end up going in this in these caves underground. There are these like monsters down there that attack them. They're trying to get out. It's like a whole survival thing that I think inspired a lot of other movies like that. I definitely have seen other movies similar to that I think it inspired, and it was really scary and really, really good. So I really recommend that one. Sorry I'm talking so quick, but there's like so many things to talk about. Then I saw the second Suicide Squad movie. Again, this was a very, very enjoyable movie for me. Highly recommended. The first one did not stick with me. Can't even barely remember it. So this second one definitely improved. Again, it's one of those superhero things that just work because it's this great like cast of weird characters all interacting together, and I just think that whole dynamic is really fun. It worked for the Avengers and now it's working for a lot of other things. Yeah, but obviously it's more for people who are into like action superhero stuff, but it does still have those comedic elements that I think anyone would enjoy. The final movie that I recommend, although I have a little bit of mixed feelings, but overall I enjoyed it, and that's Dear Evan Hansen. I watched this musical, so of course I wanted to see the movie. Overall, I did enjoy it, and I think they made a couple changes from the source material that were good. However, the original source material itself is slightly problematic already. So there wasn't a ton that they could do about that unless they wanted to completely change the story. So that's why there's like a lot of people having issues with it still. It is about this teenager named Evan Hansen, and he has a lot of anxiety and depression issues. And when he is writing this letter to himself for a therapy exercise, this other kid gets his hand on it and then ends up unaliving himself, and he is found with that letter. So everyone thinks that that was his suicide note that he had wrote to Evan, and so they think that they were friends. And then Evan gets up in this whole big lie about being friends with this kid when he was not, and it was just a misunderstanding. And anyways, it has to do with mental illness, mental health, and a lot of serious topics like that. It definitely brought me to tears at times. It definitely was relatable to me at times, but also it could be very like cringy and upsetting just with what's going on, but I would still recommend it. Now, as for the things I watched and I don't recommend. So starting with TV shows, we have Big Brother season 23. So this show is actually finishing this week. I'm filming it before the finale, but I can pretty much assume what's going to happen. This season has been historic in that there was an all-black alliance called the Cookout, and they made it to the final 6, which is really amazing for them. They all did a great job with that and have literally made history, as there has never been a black winner, and now there will be. In the US anyway. In Canada, we had our first black winner already this year, just saying. But because they had such a strong alliance the whole season, it did make it a little bit boring to watch, as you knew what was gonna happen every week. There was no unpredictability, no twists or turns. So I wouldn't overly recommend this season. Next, I've been watching The Vampire Diaries season 7 in my rewatch, and this season has to be the worst one. So if you're watching Vampire Diaries, maybe stop at season 6. Then we have Riverdale. I am behind on the current season, but from what I was watching, it's not the best, and this is not really news to people. It's a common thing that people make fun of Riverdale. Next up, we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, coming back to another Marvel TV show. This was the third one that I watched, and I didn't hate it as much as Loki, but I did not enjoy it as much as WandaVision. I just found a lot of it to be boring. I kind of find Sam's character to be boring. A lot of the story was hard to understand. I think my boyfriend told me that like there were some issues with the story, that they end up having to cut things due to COVID. I don't know, but it was not very clear, and I don't really think it was super like effective. My favorite was the new Captain America. I think his name was John Walker. He was a star to me. He really stood out, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in upcoming movies or TV shows or whatever the heck Marvel is doing. But yeah, not overly a big fan. So as for movies, I began watching Aftermath, and I did not finish it, so I would not recommend that, and that was on Netflix. Then I watched Heathers, which is this older movie, what was it, in the 90s or something? It is about this group of popular girls. All of them are named Heather, except for Winona Ryder's character, who is called something else, I forget. Basically really like just like mean girls. And then there has to do with like death and killing and like I don't even know how to explain it anymore. I feel like this is more of like a cult classic, and like I'm not in the cult. I did not enjoy this film. I can't remember why now. I just remember I did not like it, and I kind of wish I didn't watch it. Yeah, I just wasn't a fan. Sorry, I can't think of anything else. Then I also watched Ender's Game, which I read this book earlier in the year, so I'm like, you know what, let's watch the movie. I love Asa Butterfield, who played Ender. This was a bit of a disappointing adaptation. It's one of those things where they did pluck like specific scenes from the book to adapt, but then it just didn't feel cohesive. They didn't get the message across. I feel like it was one of those books that, or adaptations, that would have been better if they changed things more, but just to make it better, instead of just picking specific scenes to adapt, it didn't make it flow as nicely. I just don't think the full like message came across as it could have, such as like how quickly Ender moved up in the ranks at the school, at the training school or whatever. Yeah, just definitely a flawed film as well. And finally, there's The Kissing Booth 3. These were kind of like a guilty pleasure for me to watch, especially the first one, but they just went down in quality with each movie that they made. First of all, it's just so annoying that Elle was like basing where she was gonna go to school based on if she wanted to be with her boyfriend or her best friend, which was such a cringy, like bad message to send. And throughout the whole movie, I'm like, when is she gonna realize like she has to do this for herself, not just to be with her friend or her boyfriend? And that does end up being the message at the end, but it scared me for a second there. I was like, this is not good. And then just on top of how many like cringy things are in it, they repeated a lot of the issues from the second movie when it came to the jealousy between Elle and the two boys. Can't even remember their name. Marco and the other one. And then her going into like video game development, I feel like that really came out of left field a little bit. Her best friend, what was his name? Lee, which was the best friend, is so annoying. Like, he's upset that Elle is not going to the same school as him that they decided they would go to when they were like 5 or like children, before they even knew what college was. Like, how can you be mad at her for not wanting to go to that college anymore? There's just so many cringe things like that maybe watch the first one, because I have like fond memories of that one, but like don't continue. Okay, I think that's everything. So basically watch all those first things I talk about. I recommend them, and don't watch this last half. I do not recommend these things. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more TV and movie recommendations in the future, and for book recommendations as well. Let me know what your favorite thing you've watched recently is, and I will try to get to it. See you next time.